Well, thank you for coming out to our second annual Engine Connect event in partnership with Code Youngstown. I'm Chandler Fiffick. I'm the Senior Director of YBI's Engine Tech Incubator. As many of you know us probably as a software incubator, but we have a primary focus now on advanced manufacturing startups. We will never let go of our roots, so local software companies should still apply. We have plenty of funding for those types of startups as well. This is a special event. I think I know you're really gonna enjoy yourselves tonight.
No pressure.
Well, I had nothing to do with this. I want to thank my team, the Engine team, Rory Kale, who's program manager, Lauren Carter, who's program coordinator, Jessica Sproul, who's YB marketing director, Macy Shawless, I don't know if she's here, the executive assistant, Luke Politsky, fundraiser, and our CEO, Barb Ewing. So thanks to you all. I'm gonna stop talking because I know you're not here for me. I'm going to introduce you to Joe Dunko, and you can talk whatever you need to say about Code Youngstown, and then you can introduce Wayne.
Gotcha. I think
right.
we typically do our spiel at the end here, but again, thank you all for coming. This is a Code Youngstown event. If this is your first Code Youngstown event, we typically do these. We try to do them every other month. It's been like every 3. We typically do like a social every 6 months, a couple of speakers in between. Thank you so much, Wayne, for being willing to give a little spiel. Very excited to learn a little bit more about what you've been working on. I think that's the most part. If you like what you see here, things don't have to stop here. CodeYoungstown.com, we have a Slack group if you're not in it. There's like 500 people in there, and I think only half of them are bots. So there's a lot of action there every week. If you're looking for work, if you're hiring, great place to hire and look for work. If you have something that you want to host, if you're very into a specific language, a specific type of programming framework, if you have an event in mind, if you want to speak, let Nick and I know. We'd love to have you. We'd love to put the weight of Code Youngstown behind you and make something happen. So from there, without further ado, Wayne, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks. I might actually sit for some of it. I tore my Achilles because I'm old. So like, you're all sitting, I'll sit some of it not. Thank you so much, Joe, Chandler, for letting me come and ramble for the next 60 minutes, which is a long time. But it'll go easier for me if you all stop me with kind of any questions that you have as I kind of go through. We can turn this into much more of a conversation. You all came to spend an hour. We can make it as useful to you as possible. So please, yell at me, throw something at me to get my attention if you have any questions. And other than that, we'll get started. So, hopefully, agenda seems kind of aggressive now that I look at this. It's not really an agenda. Hopefully here are some things that I can impart on you through this little story time that we have. I hope to kind of show you through my own weird, winding, strange journey to kind of get where I am, both as a founder and as a company. That there's some interesting things that you can kind of learn and take away, including, I need my glasses. You don't need, so some of these are also kind of like myths we'll kind of hopefully bust and dispel. I was just saying to Mike, like, I should have put this in the slides, but I'm dumb and I didn't. There was this meme going around that I really liked that was like, they showed this dude sitting, what looked like he was on a private jet, right? He's like sitting there, like trying to look cool or something, right? For Instagram, I don't know. And it's like, oh, this is what a startup is, like it's so successful or something. And you like zoom out, and the real picture is him just like holding a toilet seat up to the window. Like for the analogy that essentially like, it looks, you see like TechCrunch headlines and all these things, like it looks amazing. I promise you, it's like garbage town inside. Like, no, the best startups in the world do not look like that. Okay, and I think that that vision sets an expectation that's really unrealistic, and I think hinders a lot of people from going like, oh, well, unless I reach this particular threshold of like perfection or ability or whatever it is that I'm kind of seeing, I can't start a company, or I'm not going to be able to do these things. And it's totally not true. If I can do this, you can totally do this. You don't need a grand plan. You probably shouldn't have one. Founders are not like special magical creatures, but they are indeed kind of stupid. It's kind of important that they're stupid. I don't mean that pejoratively, but it kind of is pejoratively. In all forms of logic, by definition, they're a little bit stupid, myself included. There's really no better time to build than right now, so if anybody's out there thinking like, oh, I have this idea, and I don't mean like, again, don't think about building a company. Like, I never wanted to make a company. What even is that? I didn't want to be the CEO of anything. Like, that sounds like a horrible job. Kind of is a horrible job. Like, that's not what I wanted to do. I just wanted to build something cool, and everything else kind of came after that. And being from Youngstown, it kind of gives you superpowers. So growing up here, I didn't necessarily think that, and I think like a lot of people that grew up here, it's just like, oh my God, get me out of here. I've been around, I've lived, traveled, and lived for 10 years in New York City, and I came back. And there's reasons. And I learned that there were a lot of things that maybe we don't realize growing up here that end up being really big advantages that are unique to Youngstown and some areas like it that I wouldn't be able to get where I am if it wasn't from being from here. And you all saw like probably some like fancy flyer that was beautifully designed. Whoever did that, kudos. With like things like, oh, raised $100 million and like 60 million players, like all this stuff that sounds really cool. But I'm not very cool, as this photo proves. But that's also like not who I really am. Like again, that looks cool. Like that version is like private jet meme photo, but we're gonna zoom out. I use this picture way too much. It's in like 3 slides. And we'll start, I kind of split this into 2 pieces. One is more about like my journey and what kind of skills and things, like what happened to me to turn me into what I've become today. And the second half is more about the company and the same thing, just kind of the trials, tribulations, learnings and stuff like that that happened that took us from something that most people told me I was an absolute idiot to build to 60, 70 million players. Does anyone know what this movie is? Bonus points? Yeah, I see lots of head nods, yes. Yeah, I'm not supposed to be here today. If you would have told me 20 years ago I'd be standing here, or any of these things would be true, I would call you a liar. Most of my high school teachers probably think I'd be in jail by now. Not, a PhD neuroscientist from NYU. But what is true, not what was on the flyer, is that I'm a completely self-taught engineer before the days of the internet. Right at the early, I'm old, it was the early days of the internet, right? Like like that level of the internet. Before YouTube, where you just had to like break things, put it back together, and that's how you learned how to code. I barely graduated high school. I was last in my class. You also see I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm like a school killer, because like 2 schools I went to like don't exist anymore. Like I might just be toxic for that. As Mike knows, I got fired from Applebee's. He was there with me. Also fired from the Olive Garden, double hits. And I didn't even go to college. I didn't go to undergrad until I was 26. Right? Like I just didn't think that was a possibility. Being from the area, no one in my family went to college. My grandparents didn't college. My parents, that like wasn't a thing. You went to high school and you went to work. And that was it. My grandfather used to brag to me that in high school, he had a job at the mill and he made more money than his teachers did, right? So I think I internalized that of just like, college was for like people who were really smart, and that wasn't me. Or it was for people who had money, and that wasn't me. So it was never even a consideration. And when you have like amazing grades like this is my actual transcripts of a school that no longer exists. If you can't read, that's a pretty awesome 1.9 GPA that I graduated with. So, yeah, that does deserve some bucks. 1.9. I hated math and science. I thought they were the dumbest subjects in the world. Like, oh, if 2 trains leave a station at the same time, who gets there faster? Who cares? I don't. I didn't care at all. I failed physics, I failed geometry, whatever. I was chemistry, terrible. Hated it. But I loved, like many engineers, I loved video games. I spent way too much time, arguably way too much time, playing video games. I've lost jobs and I've lost relationships to playing video games over the years. I didn't know that you needed a little math and science to make games, but I knew I wanted to make games. Like a lot of kids, you're playing games, you're like, I had an idea, I wish that I could do X or Y. I wish you could do these things. So I wanted to make my own. So I started to teach myself how to code just because I wanted to make games. That was it. I just had that kind of dream. But, game producer, game developer, this isn't really the resume that those jobs are kind of looking for. So this is what I did out of high school. I did telemarketing. Worst job I had was sold cars. Horrible. Telemarketer again and again. Applebee's fired. Olive Garden fired. Essentially, this is what I did for, I don't know, I was like 17 when I graduated and 26 when I went to college. So this is how I spent, roughly 9 years of my life. Did anybody see this movie? It's like a documentary. Oh yeah, that was my first job. The place in that documentary was literally my first job. It's an amazing documentary. It is wild, but it was about a place called Civic Development Group that had one office in Warren, and that was where I worked. It was so crazy and turnover was so high. I went from being hired to be on the phones to a manager in like 3.5 weeks when I was 17. I had no idea what I was doing. It was terrible. But essentially my job at that point, in this very first job, was one of the things that I didn't realize was teaching me a very valuable skill that I would need later in life, but I had no idea. And essentially at that job, we went there for, it paid well, paid a couple bucks above minimum wage back then. This is like, I'm old, it's like 1999, 2000, something like that. We called up people and we asked them for donations to various things, the police department, fire department, veterans things, like different charities. And they said, listen, 99% of the job, all day, every day, is just hearing people, sometimes colorfully, just tell you no. All day, abuse you, just tell you, no, absolutely not, curse you out, no, stop calling me. You just sat there and got abused with a slap on your face. And I did that job for years. Just no. And you can't carry it. What I learned was you couldn't carry that. Do I have that as the slide? Okay. You can't carry that from like call to call, right? They'd be like, well, if someone told you no and you're upset, the next one's kind of burned already as well. You kind of can't take that energy to that. I didn't realize that torture of calling people, annoying them for multiple years and being told no, I was actually developing a very, very valuable skill for starting a company and talking to a group of somewhat terrible people called venture capitalists that we'll talk about later as well. One of the other big lessons to me that was an unlock in the weird things I did over 9 years. This is so old, it's like, I don't think HD video existed. What you can see in this blur of two men hitting each other, I'm this power-like individual on top, striking the other. I did mixed martial arts back in the day, and trained and competed a few times. This was at the Eastwood Expo Center when that was still a thing. Yeah, when that was still a thing. But this also ended up teaching me one of the greatest lessons in my life, and what completely changed the course of my life from working those jobs that I didn't like to picking a different path. And what would happen is I very vividly remember we'd have sparring. There was all types of different things, whether it's sparring or just working out. And I remember being there between sparring rounds and just feeling like this is where I die. Like I'm so tired. And right, and the coach is like, you're gonna do another round, like get up, like you're going again, you know what I mean? And you're so, I literally believed, I guess I'm gonna die here today. Like you think, your body is just like, there's no way, this is it, call it a wrap, you can't do it. And then I'm also like too scared to tell the coach no. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just die instead of saying no. But they put you in there, they make you go in there and go another round, and at the end you go, oh, I didn't die. And actually, like, I don't feel so bad. And this was completely a mental, block that I put on myself. And there were various kind of versions, through training that were basically physical examples where I thought where I was depleted and at kind of the end and like, I'm gonna pass out, die, whatever it is. And I didn't. And actually I felt great and I felt fine. And from then on, it kind of inspired me of like, what else am I putting kind of these mental ceilings on myself that I can actually go do? And one of the very first ones that came to mind was this idea that I couldn't go to college. Like that wasn't a thing. I started going, well, why? Like, are people really smarter than me? For sure, but I know some that aren't, that they go as well. So why can't I? Like, what's the worst that can happen if I do? I go and I get kicked out. Yeah, that happened. So I went to Kent State and they kicked me out. Yeah. There's a longer story here where if we had like more than an hour, or maybe when question time comes up, this was a crazy story, and I had to like lie to be able to continue my education. It was kind of wild, but that's a interesting diversion. And the other school that I killed, actually, before I went here, I went to ITT Tech. Does anyone remember that? That place sucks. Like, thank God it does not exist anymore. Like the idea, again, like imagine you want to be an engineer, right? That's what they were coming for, right? They're like, oh, you don't have to take English history? You don't need any of that. No, all you're gonna do is learn how to code and stuff like that, right? It was horrible, and I left after like a semester, but it's dead too, so that's the second reference of schools that no longer exist after I went there. So Kent State kicked me out, and it was honestly ITT's fault, but Kent State kicked me out. And another lesson that I learned here was there was a professor, Dr. Michael Lynch, who was a professor there in African American literature and Japanese literature, I believe. And I really connected with him. He was great. I had a 4.0. He was like a great professor. And when he found out they were kicking me out, he copied me on a letter. He forwarded me an email that he sent the dean, Kent State, basically saying like, what is wrong with you? Like, these are the types of students that we're like begging to come to Kent State. He's like super curious. He works really hard. He's really smart. Like, why are we kicking him out for what essentially was like a bureaucratic issue? And when they were told like you can't come here anymore, I was crushed. Like I had just been like, I could do it. Like this whole mental ceiling is destroyed. I can go. And they're like, seeing that letter from the professor to the dean fighting for me, right? Like there's one thing in having a belief in yourself, right? Like that questioning of like, why can't I do it? Why can't I? And having that belief. I discovered an entirely new type of fuel that was very, very important, which was other people's belief in you and other people believing that you can do something, right? Gave me, when I was ready to just give it up and be like, whatever, I guess I'm gonna go be a telemarketer for the 19th time, or maybe find an Applebee's that won't fire me, or couldn't think of another restaurant. There are days, and this was, 20 years ago, when I have bad days, I still go back and read that letter that he wrote, like to this day, 20 years later. When I had a modicum of success at the company, and we started a $100,000 scholarship for kids to play video games in schools. I named it after him, after Dr. Lynch, as like an ode to the impact that he had on me. Because the fuel that somebody else sees something in you and believes in you is a tremendous power, And as you'll see when you're kind of building the company and just like, Elon, for all the things, like he nails it pretty well on what it's like running a company, just like chewing glass and staring off into the abyss. It's pretty accurate. having that fuel of like, oh, but other people believe in me and all these other things, you know, kind of goes a long way. So I tricked Columbus State Community College into taking me. This was like a really winding road just to get a bachelor's degree, by the way. ITT, Kent State kicks me out, get to Columbus State Community College, and I'm doing computer science and I hate it. I'm like, this is also terrible. At this point, I've been coding for like 10 years. You're teaching me how to make a calculator and Visual Basics. I want to like just gouge my eyes out. Like, this is absolutely terrible. And at Temple, you know, you may find this shocking. I'm a bit of a procrastinator. I would never register for classes until like the absolute last minute, okay? And there was a deadline, I had to register for a class. And I registered, they called it Psychology as a Natural Science. I didn't know it was like a neuroscience course. It was Psych as a Natural Science. And my advisor was like, ooh, that's a tough class. It's like, I've got students that get, you know, straight A students that get C's in that class. I don't know. So then of course, I had to take the class and like prove them wrong, right? Like, it just made me want to do it even more. But really, the first 2 weeks of that class, I found like my second love to video games, which was neuroscience. I didn't even know, like growing up here, I didn't know that was a thing you get paid to do. Like, we don't know about the brain, go figure it out and we'll give you money. That's a real job. I was like, amazing. And when I learned that there was a whole subfield in neuroscience, computational neuroscience, which essentially takes the brain and goes, well, here's inputs and here's outputs, what computations or algorithms are kind of in the black box in between. That was very much how I viewed kind of computers and how I learned to code, take things apart, put them back together. The brain was just an alien computer dropped off on Earth that we had to reverse engineer and kind of figure out how it worked. And I absolutely fell in love with science. I finished at Temple University. I went and got my PhD at NYU in experimental neuroscience. After that, I did a postdoc at the Simons Foundation where I was one. They give 20 awards per year to all the sciences, every different domain of science, and I was one of the 20 award winners for the Simons Foundation to be a junior fellow across all the sciences. I absolutely loved science. The coolest thing that I did, which also just shows kind of how dumb we are about the brain and how little we know, is by complete accident, I discovered 2 new parts of the brain and got to name them in a paper. I think I have these ones. Oh, thank you. I didn't name it anything cool, so it'd be cooler if... No, I tried. My advisor would let me. I wanted to name it like after Star Wars stuff, and he was like, no, you can't do that. It's science. This is serious. So they're just named like after the regions that they are. But I loved science. And I'm saying that because I really didn't want to leave academia in a scientific career and like being a neuroscientist to start a company. It was never the plan. And again, I would have been, if you told me that was a thing, I'd be like, that sounds horrible. I really don't want to do that. At all. Where are we on time? How much time do I have, by the way?
45 minutes.
More?
I think. Something like that.
Oh, okay.
Let's just
Sorry.
Let's just okay for now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then I did, in my postdoc, I did, I guess it's like cool now, artificial intelligence, like they call it AI. Like 12, 13 years ago when I was a postdoc, it was definitely not a cool thing to do, but like now, ooh, it's like in vogue again. Back to this awesome picture. You know, I don't know if you can tell, but I have like a sweet ponytail like going on over here. Was pretty awesome. I shaved to get this, you know, cool look because my hair's just eroding, you know, when I was younger because I was in like a really shitty metal band, okay? And I would get, I got mistaken in public three different times for Hanson. I was like, oh, this is not cool. So that was it. I shaved it. I was like, I can't be in like a metal band and people think that I'm in Hanson. Any questions? I know I've literally just been rambling at everybody. Before we go to Act 2, whatever I call it. Yeah.
You said you knew how to code for 10 years. What were you coding in?
Since I was like obsessed with video games, this was when like the Torque game engine was like a thing. So C++, these kids, these young whippersnappers have it easy these days. You don't even know what a compiler is. Like,
what kind of game did you want to make when you were younger?
RPGs for sure. That was my favorite genre of games. I loved that video game. You could just lose yourself. You could just be gone, right? It was like a different reality. Final Fantasy VII changed my life. Like, I was like, oh my God. And I look back now and they're like such terrible graphics. I remember when that came out, I was like, holy crap, this looks amazing. And I was gonna show my kids, because I have a 12-year-old, 9-year-old, 3-year-old. I was like, oh, you guys, Final Fantasy, this is one of the greatest games. The story's amazing. And they're like, Dad, this sucks. Like, this looks terrible. This is worse than Roblox graphics. Like, this is terrible. I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of is. It's like a whole 8 polygons per character or something. Like, it was atrocious. It was pretty bad. So RPGs was definitely my dream. Yeah.
What were the 2 parts of the brain you named?
The superior precentral sulcus 1 and the superior precentral sulcus 2. And they align near the superior precentral sulcus of the brain. Yeah. I got to do all types of cool things. Shock people's brains. We did transcranial magnetic stimulation, so I have to like zap people's brains and like turn sections of them off and see what happened. It's also crazy they just let you do some of this stuff. Like, and people are like, yeah, do it, just zap me. It's like, okay. I taught me a week ago how to do this, but buckle up.
I thought there were laws about that.
Yeah, kinda. That's what consent forms are for.
It's not fair that you got stuck with like kind of pre-existing names, and there was like, meanwhile physicists over here naming stuff like the strange quark.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. I did some cool like early days of virtual reality studies where we were looking of like, did anyone ever watch the movie The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? So I wanted to do like that, but for people who had PTSD, which was, could we eradicate memories from someone's brain? And there were like really interesting studies in rats where they would use shocks to acquire fear in like a particular room, and they would switch rooms and like extinguish the fear and all these things. So we did it to humans. Same thing. Instead of zapping in the brain, I literally shocked them. Like they're like in virtual reality, just like sitting in a room, like walking around, and I'm zap, just like zapping them, freaking them out in the name of science. But that was a super cool project that actually worked. Your brain really doesn't know the difference, in VR versus reality with some things, which is pretty cool. It was also the early days, like the DK2. We had people just like puking after like 10 minutes. It was so bad. At first, I like let them move. I was like, it was like a first-person shooter. Like, oh, you can walk around and explore. People would get super sick. Didn't go over very well. Any other questions before part 2, Electric Boogaloo?
What was that shitty metal band?
Same one that I'm in playing West Side Bowl, May 8th.
Are you actually here just to plug the show?
That's it, yeah. Nate paid me to come. He's like, sell more tickets. Okay, where was I? I was in grad school. Okay, so yeah, I'm in grad school. I love science. It's super fun. And then I remember I still obviously love video games, and this thing, I saw an interview with Steve Aarons. At the time he was the team owner and the CEO of Team Liquid, a professional esports team. And he was in an ESPN article, and I'm like, ESPN is covering video games? Like, what is going on? This is awesome. And he said something essentially like this. He was talking about scouting players, and he's like, well, for them to join pro teams. He's like, it's not like they're on some combine where, they can throw a ball and I can measure their statistics like we have in traditional sports, right? Essentially he was looking for what are the analogs in gaming to like running fast or being strong or jumping high? Like what are the kind of constituent essences of skill and athleticism, but in kind of the gaming world? And then as a neuroscientist and a lifelong gamer, I was like, actually, we totally know what these things are. We measure them in the lab all the time while I'm zapping people's brains. It's cognitive abilities, visual motor abilities, cognitive or perceptual abilities, There's even clinical ways of measuring these and diagnosing issues in people. The problem is, it's really, really boring. So like even in those studies where I would like zap people's brains, they fall asleep like 40 minutes in. They're just like, it's so boring, it sucks. You make them do like these same really basic tasks for like an hour, 2 hours, and it's just kind of torture. But I was like, oh, that's really, really interesting. And actually something I would like to do. I didn't know that if anyone else would think that was interesting, but I did. I was like, that would be a cool idea and something we could do. I for sure wasn't gonna be able to convince my PI who ran the lab to like let me do video game studies or anything like that. Oh, and these are like real slides that I used to raise like a bunch of money, which also shows you don't need much. And we started out, you know, the original idea was, okay, great. He's kind of talking about scouting, but we don't even know to do something like that. We have to understand, we have to have like distributions of data of like what does good reaction time look like? What does good accuracy look like? How does that differ by age, by the game somebody plays, by whatever else? Like no one's even done this research. We need to go do that. So we're like, okay, well, what could we do then where we could solve a problem for people and learn these things at the same time? And that was where the idea of Aimlabs was originally born from, was we were hoping that we could create a solution for people who wanted to train and get better at playing games. And by doing that, if enough people participated, we get to see what the distribution of reaction time is, the distribution of accuracy, you know, kind of what's normal and what's not. I'll skip some of that stuff for now. So I entered a startup competition, like on a whim, literally 24 hours before the deadline. I called the company Statespace just because I was working on like Statespace models at the time in the lab. And I remember saying like, oh, I'm just gonna name it this and we'll just change it like in a few months or something. And that was 12 years ago. Didn't get around to it. We entered this, and I just thought it would be a cool way to learn. Like I was like, oh, this would be cool. This gives me an excuse to work on this project instead of being in the lab. Again, I didn't want to start a company. I didn't want to build a company, run a company, because I don't want to do any of that. I was like, here's a cool problem I think is interesting. Selfishly, I would have never thought anyone would pay money or like actually use it. I just thought this was cool. I want to go do this for my own kind of selfish reasons. We entered the competition. It was like 3 months long. We ended up winning. And the kids at the school that were running it are just laughing. They're just like cracking up after we won. And I'm like, what's so funny? And I come over and they're like, you're not even supposed to be here. Literally the clerk's line from the movie. They're like, oh, you know, like 200 people submitted to be part of the competition and only 20 got in. And what they did was they had faculty members at NYU grade each submission and give them points. And then they said, you didn't get enough points to make the top 20, but we just think the faculty didn't understand video games, so we just gave you more points so that you could have the 20th slot. And they're like, we look like geniuses because you won, we were right. And that kind of set off just, again, I didn't know what a venture capitalist was. I didn't know what a business plan, I didn't know anything. All I knew was like, this is a cool thing I wanted to make, and maybe someone else thinks it's cool. So you have to put together like a pitch deck and all of this stuff. Great. For those of you who don't know what Aimlabs is, it kind of looks something like this. So this is like super old. The idea is it had two components to it, essentially like an analytics bucket, which is you would want to know kind of what we talked about. You want to have almost like an assessment of somebody's skill, but you can't feel like a test. No one wants to take a test. These are games. It should be fun. So you have to kind of take those things that made people fall asleep in the lab and hide them in, you know, aspects of gameplay where you can measure those things so that you can understand what a person's strengths and weaknesses are, what their biases are. If they're worse reacting to something in the upper left portion of the screen than the bottom right portion of the screen. Essentially like, you know, this kind of fingerprint of their abilities. And then the idea was that we would take that information and give them training scenarios to improve their weaknesses, not just their strengths, right? Like if they're bad at shooting targets on the left side of the screen, why would we give them so many targets on the right, right? Like how could we spend time, you know, on the things that they were not so good at? I don't remember what the next slide, oh yeah, okay, so it's essentially that. This is also a weird thing that kind of took off. This like Mr. Aimlabs thing on Twitter, and now I have to wear like a big giant head like that places sometimes. It's not comfortable, it's hot, I can't hear myself or anybody else. It's very strange. But this was essentially the core loop, right? Which was like play, again, it's play, not work, tests are not fun. Can we understand what someone's good at and bad at? Can we give them that information, right? And then also tell them what they should do about it. If you're wondering if we ever tried to go beyond games, absolutely. We also had a digital health department where we essentially took the exact same platform. Hospitals didn't really like guns, so we turned them into like laser cats and rainbows and stuff that you would kind of shoot at. But we did partnerships with NYU, Johns Hopkins, Mount Sinai, University of Delaware, for people who were in stroke recovery, right? So a lot of the solution in stroke recovery is getting people to make the same movements over and over and over and over and over again. Like state of the art is they like give you these cards with like an exercise and they're like, go home, do this 1,000 times. Nobody does that because who would do that? So again, being able to hide repetitive movements and stuff like that is something that was a little bit sticky. We worked with kids who had cerebral palsy to help recover motor function and stuff. So again, like the foundation of the technology was for games initially, but also had broader and wider applications. Oh yeah, this is my favorite part. So we win the competition, and then I don't know what we're supposed to do next. And then people are then where you like, now you gotta raise money and you gotta go talk to venture capitalists. And I'm like, what's that? I don't want to do that. Doesn't sound fun. I talk to them every day. I still am not sure what venture capitalists do. But that was kind of the next phase. It was like, okay, great. Now I have to go learn to talk this completely different language with people who have a lot of money and ask them for some of it so I could go build this thing. And I remember they were saying, like, I was fortunate enough to have people at NYU that are coaching. They're like, you got to get in there and tell them how this is $1 billion business. And I'm like, it's not. I don't know. What do you mean it's $1 billion? I made a thing where people click circles. It's not a billion. How is this I don't know the answer to that question. Like, oh, you got to make it up. You got to make it up. You got to tell them something. Okay. I remember sitting there when we launched Aimlabs going, if we could get 10,000 people to play this, oh my God, we made it. Like coming from a scientific lab where 10,000 people in a study would be insane, right? You'd be like, oh, this is amazing. 10,000 people to play it would be absolutely amazing. So I go and I'm doing all these, that's what I mean, like 10,000 people, how to make $1 billion from 10,000 people, like that makes the math doesn't math. So I'm going and like talking to venture capitalists, and this is essentially what I heard like 1,000,000 times, right? I've literally had people tell me to my face I was an idiot, which was pejorative. It wasn't. They didn't mean it any other way. But like circling back to my experience at the HBO featured place of employment civic development group and doing telemarketing, I dealt with that for years. Of just people telling you like no, and oftentimes they call me an idiot or worse. So thankfully, again, I didn't realize I was training to kind of be a founder going through that, but it didn't really faze me. It stings a little bit sometimes depending on the delivery, but for the most part, it obviously didn't stop me, right? And this is another moment of like the meme where it looks like you're on a private jet. Yeah, it's great to be like, oh, I've raised 120, 130, I don't even know, $100+ million. I probably had offered over $200 million in investment across companies. Still, 99% of venture capitalists that I talked to said this. They didn't say, here's the check. They said, you're an idiot. I had one of my favorite stories where I had a venture capitalist take a bunch of meetings, and then she was going to make a decision, and she came and she told us no. And she's like, well, here's what I did. My son is 7 and he plays Fortnite. And I asked him to play Aimlab. I showed him a video and I said, would you play this? And he said no. So I'm not gonna invest. I'm like, why don't you just waste 8 hours of my life? If it was, just bring your kid in. Let me talk to your son. Like, let me pitch him. What am I pitching you for? And then I also learned the billion, dollar rule once. I had a fund. We were raising like $500,000 on a $2.5 million valuation. I won't name names. I will privately after. There's cameras. I'll privately name names after. But a VC fund, again, all these things, spent, I don't know, 6-8 meetings talking to them. And the one guy never wore shoes, and he like put his feet up on the table. It was strange. But they're like, oh yeah, we're not going to invest. We think your company is probably only going to be worth about $500 million. That's just not big enough for us. And I'm like, I'm asking you at a $2.5 million valuation, if you believe it's worth 500, why are you not giving me any money? And that's a side story and how the math of VC funds work and how they have to kind of make returns. But it is such a strange world to be in.
Can I
I'm
ask
gonna-
a question, Mike?
Yeah.
Number one, how did you learn that math when that's not what you're interested in, that's not what
Yeah.
you do? And in hindsight, would you give that VC fund 8 meetings?
What did I give them? What? Sorry.
8 meetings. Like, when do you say they're just playing me and they don't want the FOMO?
I've done this so much, I think I could teach a college year-long course on fundraising and communication with venture capitalists. When he didn't wear shoes and he put them on the table should have been a clue. I think that it really, what I learned was that it depends on who you're talking to. So a lot of these venture capital funds, when you go ask, even if someone that you're talking to likes you, it usually goes to some partnership vote, right? And your job, what your real job is, as a founder trying to get investment, is to arm that person so well that they can take whatever you gave them and convince people you'll never get to talk to. That's the trick. Can you set it up so easily for that person that they can take your pitch and do it to somebody that you'll never get to talk to and convince them of that? And that changed things. The meeting thing, the best piece of advice I got in fundraising too, which I still think about and applied it to other things, was early on, you're trying to get intros to these VCs, so you're just emailing them. Usually, if you're lucky, you get a warm introduction, but you're emailing them. And I would send all this information, here's a 72-page PDF and 100 slide deck slides, all your questions are answered, please give me the money. And my friend Human, he was an investor at the time, he's again, you're an idiot. He's don't do that. The point of emailing a VC is not to get them to invest in your company. The point of emailing them is to get a meeting, so they'll meet you in person. And the point of that meeting is not to get them to invest in your company. The point of that meeting is to get a second meeting, which is essentially then, maybe I shouldn't drown them in information. Instead, you almost need to give them a good pop song. You don't want to give them Stairway to Heaven or Inagata-Davida. You need to give them a hook that they want to hear again and they want to learn more. And there's an entire art to fundraising. There's the story that you're telling and even the story around your fundraise. It's a wild, complicated, terrible thing.
How did you convince yourself that your company's worth $1 billion?
So,
That's I talk to startups, I tried to found a startup, and that's a tough conversation when
Yeah.
you're I'm just trying to get through the next month.
Yeah. So, what's the next slide? Okay, yeah. I didn't at first, and I would kind of try to dodge that question. And I would just be here's what we're going to do. I would almost think that they would get it. They would kind of get it themselves and go, they'd give me the answer, be oh, so, okay, they're doing the math in their head, there's this many gamers, and if they pay this much money, I had no revenue model, I had nothing, right? They're doing it for me, and they're doing the math. And they're so you could just do this, this, and this, and then that's how you make these, and I'm yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, good job, bud. Here, mind reader, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. That was how I did it early on. And then slowly what happens is you start to accumulate evidence that builds that conviction in yourself. And that happened to me piece by piece by piece by piece. We're probably, I don't know how much time we have, so And that was kind of here, right? Like, you know, there's all these people like, you're an idiot, but like piece by piece by piece, we started seeing traction. We were getting like press interviews. We were getting, I love this one because it was still like AI will discover the next esports pro player. Sounds like a headline today, but this is like almost 10 years ago that I did that interview. And we'd reach kind of the next milestone and the next milestone and the next milestone. We started working with just like, it was a dream to me, like companies that I looked up to, game studios that I looked up to, that I would love to work at as like a junior entry-level engineer and just get to be a part of these things, were reaching out to us and wanting to work with us and to do things, letting us take their IP and put it in our game and stuff like that. I was like, what is going on? We have Aimlabs skins in other games. Like Rainbow Six Siege has Aimlabs skins, and Agents, Fall Guys has an Aimlabs skin. Like these things start to happen and you're just like, do you remember Arcane, the Netflix show? Like Riot Games had this TV show. It was the #1 show on Netflix. It was a great show, right? Based on the League of Legends universe. Well, like 6 months before it comes out, they call me and they're like, hey, you want to do this special project? And I'm like, what is it? I don't know. Like, well, we can't really tell you anything, but you know, we have something coming out on Netflix, and it would be really cool if you could take a scene from this show and people could play it in Aimlabs, and then when we launch the episode, we'll send them to Aimlabs, and they can kind of go play that part of the show. And we did that. We took like, it was the Jinx arcade scene where she's like shooting, trying to get the high score against her sister. And they reached out to us with like, will you put this in your game? Will you put this League of Legends universe stuff in your game? It's like, yeah, of course. What do you mean? We did this one is also awesome and sad at the same time. We were doing a scientific conference, and I had the really stupid idea of like, well, let's put it on Twitch. That's easy, right? Like, let's just stream the whole event. It's not easy. Anyone who does events like this or anything else, it's a ton of work and it is very, very hard. And the same thing, over 625,000 people watched this scientific conference that we did on Twitch with pro players and ourselves and stuff like that, giving talks on kind of the intersection of science and gaming. Like, okay, there's something here. Like, something is really kind of going on. The sad part of this is it made me realize that like, if I kept my career in academia, the sum of every paper I ever published in the next 100 years was never going to reach 625,000 people, no matter how many more parts of the brain that I would discover. But then there's things that are, and then this is crazy. I can't comprehend this number. We have over 60 million players in Aimlabs over the years. This is larger than the population of South Korea, of Canada. Like, that's, imagine like you made something in high school, everyone in your high school like used it. You'd be like, fuck, this is crazy. Like, oh my God. Like, that's kind of almost a visceral thing you get. I can't comprehend these numbers. Remember, I'm like, can we get 10,000 people to do this? This is awesome. This is also terrifying. And anyone who is part of the video game community knows that's a lot of people to keep happy and very opinionated and not always easy to please. But there's things beyond numbers that are really give you that conviction. So one day I got a text message from someone that's like, hey, you gotta check out this GQ article. I mean, do I look like I read GQ? Like, that's not happening. And she's like, no, you gotta go check it out. This was another weird one. Champion, the clothing company, reached out to us and was like, hey, let's do like a collaboration for like a line of clothing, okay? And it got picked up for GQ as one of the best new menswear items to buy. It's like, what? And more recently, I think that's what this is, So this, these kind of things happen to me that like blow my mind. I was almost like crying in Best Buy the other day. I was in Best Buy in Niles, so I go there because I had to buy a computer monitor for the office. Our office is here. It's the second story of the iHeartRadio building. And I'm going to buy the monitor, and I walk in, and I see on the display here we had made a mouse with Asus. They came with us to make a gaming mouse. We did like the super cool mouse. We designed the shapes and stuff like that. It was awesome. This was like 2 years ago we made this mouse, by the way. Like it's been on sale for almost 24 months. And I go there, and at first I'm like, oh, cool, like the mouse is here, like in a Best Buy. That's amazing. But then also, I'm sure you can't see it because I can barely see it. Inside the boxes of the mice, we had a little card like thanking people, and we signed it. Like we had our signatures in it, like me and a couple folks on the team who made it. And they had it out on display, like as part of the display. I like walked, I'm like, I know that guy. That's crazy. And those things are incredibly humbling. And it's like, oh my God, like I built, and also terrifying, because again, it's like you made something that some people care about. Becca's watching my language, don't mess it up. Don't screw it up. I'm so over on time. Oh, and then full circle, I even got to be in ESPN. Like I was inspired and like discovered the whole company because of an article in ESPN, and like I even got to be interviewed by them, which was pretty cool. Okay. My company they put this on a shirt, by the way, like just they made shirts and surprised me at an offsite with them. They also, I don't know, they tortured me. They also had one, there was an interview I did. I got asked to do a live interview, which I had never done before at the New York Stock Exchange. And I'm like all dressed up, but like you ever watch Ink Master? I was like Oliver from Ink Master. I had like no shirt underneath and just like chest tattoos showing, like, cause you have like a dress code, so I was like, I'm gonna rebel against this dress code. So I'm there and they email you these questions ahead of time because it's gonna be live. So they're like, here's 5 things we're gonna ask you. Nowhere in those 5 things was the second question they asked me live, which was, the president says video games cause mass shootings. Does that make you rethink your business model? And I rolled my eyes so hard, like just as the default reaction, that it's still a Slack GIF, like in Slack, and they put that on a shirt too. It's just me like rolling my eyes, really hard. I guess I have an expressive face. Okay, I'll pause there. Any questions on? Yeah.
This might be an off-camera question. do you have a favorite VC no that you think about to this day when you hit like company milestones or whatever it might be that you're like, this is my head?
My favorite like spike fuel.
Sure.
Oh yeah. So I actually I advise a bunch of companies as well. So like at NYU, I help faculty members who want to start like scientific companies and startups and stuff like that, spin them out. And I encourage them to do this as well. Spite, for me, is a wonderful motivator and fuel. Like again, like, oh, tell me I can't take this class, watch me. I had an investor tell me you can't build a company in Ohio. I moved here. I moved back and got an office. Watch me. Like, don't tell me that I'm not gonna do that. So I had a list. We did this very early on. We essentially there's a Google Doc still in our, that lives. There was essentially a list, which sounds terrible. Maybe I shouldn't say this on camera. Like I made a list of basically all the terrible things that people had said, and it became fuel of just like, I can't let any of that be true either. I can't let them be right. I can't let no shoes guy be right. Like no way. There's no way that's happening. And it is one of the other like best things somebody told me. Matt Turk at Firstmark, a very successful VC. Firstmark's a great fund. They've had tons of companies go from early stage to IPO, right? Airbnb, Shopify, all the massive companies. And he's like, listen, we've seen this all the time. A startup is not this. It's not a line that goes up and to the right. Every startup, the most successful startups are this. And if you zoom out over long enough years, you can kind of fit a line to it that looks like this. But it's nothing but like peaks and valleys. I mean, no matter how well it's gonna be suffering. It's gonna be chewing glass. I shouldn't say this because the whole next slide is like, can't I convince you to start a company? Like chewing glass and staring off into the abyss. But the best glass you'll ever taste, and you should do it. So that fuel, like those things and those moments, Again, the letter from Dr. Lynch, the things that people said that we can't do this and I can't let that be right, the like, why can't I? 60 million people using something and not wanting to let them down, like, that's also a humbling thing. I mean, even if it was 60 people, there's 24 hours in a day. People could choose whatever they want to do with their time. They could watch Netflix, they can go to the movies, they could watch TV. I don't know why I'm saying all like entertainment, video, like things. They go outside, people do that. And for some reason, they chose to use something that you built or made or like interact with that. That's, I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility, and that has to be an amazing experience. Like they could choose anything and they chose us. Oh man, we can't let that be like a terrible experience. We have to do really, really right by them. Any other questions?
What was like the deepest battle that you've experienced starting up Aimlabs?
Oh God, that company has probably almost died 100 times. And there's like, again, it's the same thing, these other stories that people tell, you hear about Elon saying like SpaceX was bankrupt the day after Christmas unless we got this contract. Like they were like 1 day away. Jensen at NVIDIA, same thing, and he's like, they essentially turned into a motto, like you could be dead 30 days later at any time. Like it's not gonna happen to NVIDIA now, but at any time, 30 days later. And it really is because there's like the things you can control and the things that you can't. And gaming especially has been an absolute shit show for the last 5 years. Like pandemic and then after, the whole thing that's carrying growth in the gaming industry or post-pandemic is Roblox. Essentially everything else is flattened down. And if you look at the game industry graph, it's being carried by massive increases in Roblox revenue. It's a tough place. The amount of monthly active user first-person shooter players from 2021 to now is down like 60%. I think a lot of people thought that pandemic that kind of rise would continue, and instead it crashed, right? So you're seeing so many gaming studios just shut down, and even Epic, right? They just did $500 million in expenses cut and thousands of people, and they make Fortnite. So if you can imagine what these big companies are going through, what a smaller games company goes through, it's been tough. But as you survive those near-death experiences, you kind of just get like numb to them in a sense. You get really calm under that pressure because you're like, I did it once, I'll do it again. I did it once, I'll do it again. You almost get, this is kind of like how I said founders, the best ones are a little bit stupid. Like that's why, is because logically there's so many other things to do and you shouldn't do this or your company's gonna die or whatever else, and you're just like, do it anyway. Figure it out. And that's what you do. I could probably teach a college course on how many times the company has almost died, and how we came back from that.
How important, is passion versus the chasing the money as a founder? And have you always been this charismatic, or did that come with experience over time?
I think that for sure just comes with experience. You just do it so much that it just kind of happens. The passion thing flows into that. So what I noticed very early on, I would make slides to talk to VCs. I'd never use them. I'd get to like slide 2 and it wouldn't matter because it became just a genuine conversation. Like I was so excited, like genuinely excited about what I was building. And I wasn't even asking them for money. It was just like, someone's gonna listen to me, tell them what I like. And that's it. Like I was just genuinely telling them like, hey, look at this thing, isn't it so cool? Like I love doing this. And then they'd be like, you're an idiot, or do you want some money? Usually you're an idiot. And I think that just comes out, for VCs when you talk to them for sure, I'm like kind of being, as an angel investor, I think I can take cracks at them a little bit, but they're also just like humans trying to do a really, really, really hard job. Like predicting the future is a hard job. And that's essentially what they're doing with other people's money, including like pension funds and schools and all these, like it's a very, very difficult job. So they try very, very hard, but remembering that they're just humans and those things turning into conversations rather than like, here's my pitch that they could have watched on video, makes a really big difference. Because it's as cliche as it is, like, especially early on, you don't have anything to show. They're investing in you, and they're investing in the belief in you, which also has a downside. A lot of seed funds, especially, like, say that, like, we don't invest in businesses, we invest in founders, we invest in people. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. And then they tell you no. And you're like, that sucks. And because of that, like, again, going back to the spike, anyone who turned me down, I never gave another meeting to. So when we would raise a subsequent round, I didn't let any of them participate, and I wouldn't take their meetings. You said that it's not about the business. I'm the same person. Like, now the business is doing good and you want to put in? No. I don't know that that's a smart thing, but I did it anyway.
Do you send any emails after you close?
Yes. So what I would do is I'd have these like fake investor updates. And I mean fake in the sense that like it seemed like they were only going to my existing investors. I'd be like, dear investors and friends, we closed a round and all these like awesome things happened. But I would 100% BCC all the people that like told me it wasn't going to happen and everything. Like, absolutely. And they come back, congratulations. Like, yeah. Fuck off. Like, yes. Like, give me a break. Went to sleep. Oh, I bet I can hack his password. Boom! Yeah, anything else? Questions? I know we're running out of time. Yeah.
I guess aside from the two you mentioned, what's the most starstruck that you've been, aside from like Riot and Champion?
So, oddly, the most starstruck I've ever been happened on Discord. So, I got invited to this like secret Discord channel in like the games industry. Everyone knows everybody. The games industry is like a small thing for like, you know, people in the games industry and developers and stuff like that. My favorite game, they were just like talking about their favorite games of all time. And my favorite game of all time was Star Wars Galaxies. It was like an old MMO before World of Warcraft. It was completely sandbox. And to this day, if it existed, I would probably not be here because I didn't even want to like get up to go to the bathroom when I would play that game. And I was just talking about, I said something like, oh, that game just ruined my life. Like, I loved it so much, it ruined my life. And then Rafe Coaster, the guy who was the creative lead and essentially like drove that whole game, he replied just like, sorry, like, yeah, it's my fault. I was like, oh my God. That's amazing. I think that's the stuff that has gotten me the most. It's just like people that I really admired, like making games, like that they would even take my call or something like that. And I will say, like, thankfully, you know, they say like don't meet your heroes or whatever. In the games industry, man, everyone is so nice. Like most of them are they're all just nerds and want to make cool games. Like they don't care about a lot of stuff, right? Like, yeah. Even like, you know, we've worked a lot with Riot Games and with Ubisoft. They're amazing to work with. Like, they really do. You know, they'll say stuff like, we care about players, we care about players. They do. Like, it's literally every decision they make comes down to like, will players like this or not? Is this bad for players or good for players? I can't say the same about some other publishers, but Riot and Ubisoft are awesome.
Is it general Q&A time?
Yeah, anything. Let it rip.
I wasn't sure if we had more or...
No, I was gonna, you know, again, attempt to convince you that, like, especially, you know, as builders, there's the whole like, oh yeah, it's gonna replace engineers kind of crap that's going around. But in reality, like, you all have the advantage the most as engineers to use that as a tool to like replace managers and everybody else. Like, you don't need them. You know what I mean? Like, now it's the best time to build a company because you have the actual skills to be able to do things. You can use these things as accelerants to, you know, build and replace them, build your own companies, build your own games and do those stuff. Ask Claude to write a PowerPoint or some stupid ass business plan or something.
Are you able to talk at all about some of the tech stack stuff? I mean, obviously
Sure.
you have the front end game stuff, but I mean, I gotta imagine you're chewing on pipelines of data and processing in the background, right?
We have an
What's
unbelievable
the
amount of
company
data.
look like as far as engineers and...
Yeah. I would say the largest department at the company and this was actually since day one. And sorry, my legs bother me, so I'm gonna sit and eat while I talk, or talk while I eat. Is community and customer support are our largest departments. Going back to like how we really grew when we launched. I feel like I'm wasting everybody's time. I have so many stories. I will not name the game executive at a very, very big game studio. And I had pitched them the idea and I said, listen, we're about to launch a beta of Aimlabs, and we know it sucks, but the point is, like, we wanted to be the developers on this side of the table we always wish were there, which was, instead of launch a complete game and be like, give us your feedback, like, let's do it early enough we could actually integrate feedback really rapidly, and we're gonna launch that and try to build a community alongside of it. And he's like, don't do that, you're an idiot. That's a really dumb idea. At the time, it's like Fortnite is in beta and it makes like $1 bazillion. Like, the expectations of what beta means is like nothing. And people are going to hate it and it's gonna do really, really bad. And I was like, I'm gonna do it anyway. And I did, and we were both right. So we launched, our Steam review score was like 30%. It was horrible. People were like, this sucks, it's broken. It looks like shit, it looks like you made this in your basement, and I did. So it was not good. So at launch, we were pretty disappointed, we were pretty sad. But we did exactly what we said, which was, I was literally on the Steam forums and someone would be like, oh, I wish that these blue targets could be yellow. And I'd be like, give me 30 minutes. And I would like hop into Unity, do it, make a build, push it on a Steam branch, and be like, here, I did it for you. And that was literally not marketing, not influencers, like not anything. That was how we grew and took off. I personally would answer every message, every bug report that came in, every whatever. I was there, doing it, implementing it, rinse, wash, repeat. And we had a community team that would respond within, at the time, 8 hours, maybe 10 hours max, to everything that came in, every bug report, every complaint, every positive note, every Steam review. Got a human interaction, not a form interaction, but like a human being respond to them. And it was sad how many times, how freaking it was just like, no game has ever responded to me. Like, you write a ticket or something and you hear nothing, or you get like, we are working on your issue. That has really rapidly what helped us take off. And now we have a review score of like 92, 93% or something like that, which is, Steam has told us themselves is like top 0.001%. It's a pretty, kind of rare thing. So the community team, customer support is our largest department. Then it's gonna be like engineering, design. We don't really have a product. Again, we've learned a lot of lessons going like up and down in head count by the amount of projects that we worked on. So we kinda, we don't have anyone, like we don't have a product team, everybody's product. We hired a lot of our people literally like directly from Discord. This was another like thing that ended up kind of being a superpower, was we didn't like post ads on Indeed or whatever the hell people post ads on. We just had users in Discord and they're like, I'm an engineer and like I'm this, and we would hire them and it would be awesome because they understood the product, they understood the users, they understood everything, and they were passionate about it. So essentially the entire company were product managers because they all cared enough to do that. What other departments did I miss? We have people where like job titles are kind of insults at a startup because everyone does more than whatever that job title says, by definition. So we have like 2 people that are like partnerships, marketing, social media all together. 3 people. Sadly, there's no executive team. I have no help. It's me. And I have a chief of staff who's amazing, that without her I would not function. But yeah, we made the mistake of like bringing in, this was like another learning, where we would bring in, VCs especially, they love this. They would bring us like, this person was employee 16 at Facebook until it took off or whatever. And you like hire these people and you're like, that means nothing. Like, they were just there. they didn't do it. Like, there's a lot of people at those companies that were there while it became successful. It didn't mean they contributed to it at all. And this isn't Facebook, this is a little different, or Uber or whatever. Like, they would give you these, like, oh, these are like super talented people from something completely unrelated to what you're doing. So we've learned that, like, and we're completely remote. Like, we have an office here. We have some people here. No one really goes into the office, but we do offsites every quarter, sometimes less than a quarter, like every month or something like that. We just had a bunch of people out, like a strike team, just to work on cool shit. So, we'll kind of get together and do that. But it's more, I really loved, you guys know how Valve works, like the gaming company, right? They like notoriously don't really have departments or like a real structure. It's pretty flat. That doesn't work if you have people that can't really survive in a flat remote environment. It's like a recipe for absolute disaster and horror, depending on the person. But for those that enjoy it, it's like paradise. It's pretty awesome.
So as a startup, specifically as a self-funded startup, at what point do you start looking for VC? And what would be the purpose of it if you can fund it yourself? I know the idea of play with somebody else's money instead of your own.
Yeah.
But as somebody, I've owned businesses before, and the idea of being in the red day one that you launch is not a happy thought for me.
Yep.
So self-funding to the point where it picks up and doesn't require help
Yep.
at that point, but at what point would you want to look for VC in a startup that's self-funded?
Only when you have to is the real answer, because it is not like everyone thinks it's like it's an accomplishment. Like when I see a TechCrunch article, it's like someone raised $200 million. I'm like, ooh, ooh, that sucks. It's not free. It comes with opinions, pressure, all of these things that can absolutely, I have seen companies, I have had investors that can absolutely derail and destroy for various reasons. And you give up ownership, you give up all these things. I really think like venture capital, like as a thing and building a venture scale business is just not for most people. Like most businesses don't need that. It's a very specific, like if you need it because you can't get where you're going without it, you can't grow fast enough, you can't build what you want. Like a lot of AI startups now that are actually doing like AI work, not like things on top, where you need compute, you need, to spend, then it's kind of appropriate. And also like, right now, especially people, I have so many of these conversations, people are raising money just because they can, or raising amounts they shouldn't just because they can. Like I had a company I'm involved with, they had term sheets, they could have raised $50, $60 million. I'm like, please don't do that. You have nothing. You have 4 people and an idea. Do not take $50 million right now. Like you will hate your life. And they did. Instead, they took 15 or something like that, which made a lot more sense. But I really think it's something that you should, think deeply about and only take when you need it. If you can self-fund and bootstrap and be in the black, like unless you need it to hit the outcomes that you want, it comes with too much negative sides of the coin, I think. But again, in small batches, maybe different.
So, do you have an advisory relationship with VCs? Is that you're talking about wanting to cultivate a good relationship where those
Yep.
opinions and expectations aren't hindering, why you actually care about doing it, right?
Yep. That's a whole nother skill that I learned in terms of like investor management and board management and all of those things. And again, it helps to remember that like they're just human beings. And I noticed if you just get ahead of it, if you're like the proactive portfolio company where you're like giving them information, or the best thing is just ask them for things before they ask you for anything, that's like gold. Be like, yeah, I need intros to so-and-so. They'll leave you alone. They won't bother you because it's like, hey, you didn't do your work for me yet. Like, go do that. But it's also because they have so many companies to worry about, and they're worried, like, are they even doing the thing? And if you're just like silent, that's when a lot of them are gonna start coming and checking up, and you don't wanna be that like in the dark, silent, like are they doing their job or not? So when you're proactive and asking for things, also like it helps But it also helps build those relationships where they're just like, oh, he's working. He didn't just take our money and like sitting on it. He's working. He's trying to do the thing. Yeah. And it's like dating. You got to find the right ones. It's easier to get a divorce than it is to get someone off your cap table. I had to do that too very early on. I had to go through all types of little terrible issues, so I can pass those scars on to y'all. But I had to do that very early on. I had to get someone off my cap table, and it was terrible. They were awful.
You have to buy them out.
So
Sorry, that's personal.
no. What had happened was, I won't name names again. It's gonna be a long story time. I'm sorry. I could do this all night. You guys want this? Is terrible. I feel like I need a fireplace, and pajamas.
They have fireplace pictures on, YouTube.
yeah, perfect. We had raised around like a safe at the time, very small. It was like our first round, and it was oversubscribed. And we had this fund. This guy was chasing me down, and he's like, "Oh," because once the word kind of gets out, that was another thing. Like there's this very FOMO-driven thing where they're not going to lead rounds or take risks. Once they hear other people are putting money in, then they want to put money in. And this was one of those situations. I mean, this guy was like taking me to dinner, calling me all the time. He's like, please, like, let us get a $50,000 allocation. We're ex-SoftBank executives for years. We'll help you with this, this, and this. Games are big in China. We can help you in China. I'm like, okay, cool. So I made room for him for this $50,000 check. Like 6 months later, we get a term sheet from First Mark, Matt Turk, who I had mentioned. And they wanted the whole round. They're just like, they want to do all 2 million of the round. So unless someone has pro rata rights, like has the right to participate, to not get diluted or anything like that, that's it. And sent that email to this investor, and he went bananas. He went the expletives I will not repeat. Like, he put him in email, which is dumb, but he also said them to me on the phone. Along with like someone else from his firm who was like completely embarrassed. But he actually was like, if you don't value us, then maybe someone else can just buy us out. And I was like, and I just went to Matt and I was like, dude, Matt, he's like rolling his eyes like, this is crazy. Of course, we'll just buy out whatever it is, we'll pay it. Like, don't think about these people ever again. And what was funny was that fund, when we became super successful, and they're putting us on their website and like all this stuff. They're just like, yeah, we invested in this company. And every single time I would get, like founders, a lot of what you do is you don't want to take the word of a particular VC of how nice they are, so you go ask other portfolio companies and try to connect with their founders. And they would have founders reach out to me, and I'm like, do not, dear God, don't take their money. Like, don't do it. I don't get many of those calls anymore. Maybe it got around, but yeah.
Is building that list just traditional networking, or did you find like particular resources helpful in linking that up?
I got super lucky, especially looking back. Like, a lot of it was definite luck that I didn't appreciate at the time. So in New York City, like, we won that competition, and there were people at NYU who just knew people. They would just make little connection to little connection to little connection. And that was it. And our first investor actually, and so we applied to like things like Techstars, and there's like a Cornell Tech program, and we applied to every incubators and stuff like that. And someone was like, oh, there's this new fund starting that's like kind of like an accelerator called Expa that Garrett Camp, he founded Stumble Upon. Does anyone remember Stumble Upon? Or also, am I like super old? Uber, people probably know what that is. He founded Uber. And it was interesting, it was him and then like his friends that were also successful serial entrepreneurs. So they weren't venture capitalists, they were just like builders themselves who built multiple successful companies. And they had this like incubator, accelerator-ish like thing. And I remember going to pitch them, and that was also terrifying. Like, growing up here, I never met a millionaire, let alone a billionaire. Like, I gotta go talk to this guy. Oh, this is gonna be horrible. And he was like that. He looked like, he had like hair like Eddie Vedder. He was wearing like dirty shorts. He was the nicest dude. Absolutely doesn't want to, like, nicest, kindest dude. But, so there's like all these operators, and we pitched them, and they were so mean to us. Not like mean and kind of, they were just beating us up. Like, this brutal questions. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? And we didn't really get that at the other accelerators and stuff like that we went to. So I remember sitting there thinking like, well, if we really want to be successful, those are the kind of people we should probably, work with. And it shows they actually like did their homework on us and like care about it. So that would be pretty cool. And their deal was, it was like there was no curriculum. They were like, well, we work out of New York and our companies work in this office space, and now I'm starting this new company. So we'll give you $500,000 and you guys can just work with us in our offices for like 2 years for free. So I got to spend the first, 1.5 to 2 years of my startup career just like learning from them day to day. There was no curriculum. It was just like, you need help with something, come ask. And they would just impart like that wisdom. So for sure, just like person by person by person by person, those connections are massive. And what I found in the start board is most people, at least the operator side for sure, are like, they're very generous with their time, and they kind of all have similar stories. Someone helped me, I'm going to help somebody else and do that. But it is piece by piece by piece. Even now I have a friend, he just closed $18 million seed round, and he came to me, and I was an advisor. I introduced him to a friend, who introduced him to a friend, who then got the term sheet for the first round, right? It was just like, it wasn't directly for me, but it was like 2 Kevin Bacons away of that. So it's just relationship by relationship, and just not being afraid to ask for stuff. And again, like there's the old Steve Jobs story, right? He was like 13, building computers and stuff, and he just like called the CEO of HP or something like that, like for a part, and the guy like answered him and sent him the part. He's like, yeah, most people you just ask, and they're actually pretty nice. I found that to be very true. And for all of you here, like, goes without saying, like, email me, hit me up on LinkedIn, like, if you have ideas, if you have questions, if you have whatever else, like, I'm more than happy to help any way that I can, take meetings, whatever. Everyone at YBI the same, I'm sure. Like, would love to be as helpful for anything you need, ramble to you about anything, answer questions, make intros, like, whatever. That's the same thing. That's what people did for me. So it's feels good to do that for others.
Is that a good note to end on?
Sure. I'm sorry. I'm so like way over time. I think it was like, I saw the agenda. It was like Wayne will talk from 6:30 to 7:30 or something. I'm just like,
I just know
I didn't even get through all the
YBI
slides. I'm like rambling. Thank you so much for like listening.
Thank you so much, Wayne.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you doing this. Thank you to the YBI, Chandler, Rory, Lauren, everyone who put this together, paid for food, hosting us, after hours.